Wonderful. Well, hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Simon Fiore, and I was a realtor for 15 years, and I saw Fintrack getting more and more intense, not just in the paperwork, but in the requirements for brokers, the responsibilities and obligations for agents and compliance officers. And I quickly realized about 8 years ago that we were going to need a tool, and Fintrack was not going to provide us with one, unfortunately, and neither was anybody else. Nobody wanted to talk about the F word. And I decided, what the heck, let's try and solve this. So I quickly hired a development company to create a streamlined solution for myself, for my brokerage. I wanted a tool that can scan IDs and fill the forms very quickly, eliminate errors, eliminate paper. That was the base concept. And then once we perfected that, we started to approach experts in the industry, former Fintrack executives, dedicated compliance officers, anybody who would listen, even Simon Parham at CREA, and gathered that feedback. And then we evolved the application to what it is today. So we have an app that agents can download on their mobile devices. So when they're on the go in the field, they can pull it out, identify their clients by scanning their IDs, verifying and auto-populating the forms. I'm going to show you a brief overview demo of that. But before I do that, I want to talk about the foundation of Fintrack, or proceeds in crime, money laundering, terrorist financing. So your broker here has taken the role of compliance officer, and therefore there should be a customized training manual, office policy, brokerage risk assessment, and all that in place with an annual mandatory training. And we now offer all of that, Michael, just so you know, through our Fintracker Complete program. Those do come at additional cost. We can build your training manuals, office policies, we can review them, all of that. There are costs associated. So if you need help with the foundation, I just want to extend that offer to you. Reach out to us. We can talk on a separate call. Once you equip your agents, and I know what Michael's saying is what other brokers are saying, well, I don't really want to force them or mandate it. Nobody likes the word mandate. But the fact is, when you're using a document management system, you're telling everybody you have to use one. This is how you input your deals. So what is the difference with Fintrack? We need to make Fintrack a priority. And there's been an audit report that just came out from Fintrack that 51% of brokers don't have adequate training manuals, office policies, or even a tool to authenticate and verify client identity. And with that, in the last 8 months, nearly $2 million in fines. So you either spend a few dollars annually to cover all of this and equip your agents with the tools to do the job effectively and efficiently, or you're going to end up being fined and end up on their website publicly exposed for being, non-compliant. So what we've done at Fintracker is created a tool and convinced most of the real estate boards, as I'm sharing my screen here, that this is an industry problem and not just a broker problem. And the boards have agreed to cover the base subscription for the agents under their member dues, right? So the agents are already paying for this. And what that includes in most of your deals, I mean, Mississauga is special because Ray Dubosh over there's twisted my arm until August. So you guys are getting, anybody using it under Mississauga is getting full suite Fintracker, even our additional features, which I'm going to cover today. So they can download the app on their desktops or their mobile devices. They can access the forms on desktops, laptops, etc. if they need to upload them to a document management system. I'll probably have some questions as I go through this demo. But once they register an account, so they create an account, and we'll do full training for when it's go time. If you want to really make sure everybody shows up to the training and we onboard them, or you can use our pre-recorded webinars, or when they download the app, there's a recording they receive in the welcome email. But once they create an account, they select their board, and most of your, I think everybody's covered under your Mississauga, Milton, and Treb accounts. They'll register, they'll receive a welcome email, they reset their password. Once they sign in, this is how Fintracker works. And again, I'm going to give you a brief demo, not a, it will take us 40 minutes to do a full demo. And we want to do that when your agents are here. I want to talk more about the admin side after I do this demo. So to start a transaction, your agents just press the plus icon and they can select one of the 4 options. Remote identification replaces the mandatory. Whoever's reviewing these forms or making sure that they're done properly, first and foremost, if the client is not in the same province, city, or country, you have to ask, how did you ID this client? Because agents right now are either taking photos of their clients' IDs, which they need to stop doing. It's in violation of Privacy Act to store a true copy in your photo library. So when the client is in front of them, they're taking a photo and then they're waiting for you to chase them to complete the forms and they're looking for the image. When the client's not physically present, what they're doing is getting the client to text them a copy, and that is not acceptable. It's considered a soft method as of March 2022. That is considered a soft method and they will be fined or at least issued a warning. So the remote ID allows them to identify a client from a distance, even if they forgot to ID the client when they were with them and they don't want to drive across the GTA to ID them. They can send them this link, and I'm going to show you how easy it is so that you can tell your agents, look, we saw this demo, you have to be using this app. So forget about the receipt of funds. That's to ID somebody in a receipt of funds that's providing funds that's not on the deal. Okay, so like a third party providing funds, mom or dad. But individual ID, so I have a client in BC, I'm in Toronto, or I have a client in Barrie and I forgot to ID them. I'm sending them a link and they're going to receive a text message. That text comes into the client opens it up, clicks the link, and we have the terms here that, the broker has to keep this for 5 years. It's a legal obligation. This is not something we want to do. And we are using technology in this case to meet our Proceeds and Crime, Money Laundering, Terrorist Financing Act obligations. They're going to continue, or they can click on the Fintrack website and, see why this is a legal obligation. When the client's not physically present, we consider them high risk and we have to work down to low risk. So we ask them for occupation, they complete the occupation field, the industry, and they can move on. They watch a short video on how to ID themselves, and then they can move on. We train your agents to have the client prepare and have their ID ready. We let them know, look, it has to be you. So you select the country, or the client selects the country. All these documents we can do. So driver's license. And we're going to take an image. This is a whole new scanning they just uploaded this morning. So it's a bit new to me, but wonderful. A nice clear image. We were helping with the a bit of the older folks were having issues, so we made it more of a easier process for them. So scanning, uploading the front and back to our system, and we purge these images after 7 days. Once we validate them, we're validating the barcode, the holograms, the watermarks. Is this an provincial license issued by the government of Manitoba is what we're looking for here in this case. And once that's done, we then let them know that we're going to need them to consent to a selfie. And they can move on to take a quick selfie so we can match it against the ID. And that's all we're doing. We're just taking a selfie to make sure, first of all, it's a live individual and not a picture of someone. because a lot of fraud is taking place in the country, right? Not just money laundering, but people pretending to be your clients. And so I've taken a selfie. They know it's a real person, and now they know, or we know, it's the person on the ID, and the ID is not expired. It's not a photo of the ID, and we complete the form on the agent's app. That's it. The agent sent a link, and it's here. Instead of taking a photo in the same amount of time, they've sent a text, and here it is. When the client's not physically present, we have their name, their brokerage pre-populated. We walk them through each field. We even give them a map widget so they can start entering the address, and it'll pre-populate everything without missing postal code, abbreviations, etc. And here they are, all the info's there. Province didn't populate, so they have to answer that, no big deal. The scan was just didn't gather the province. Moving on, is there a third party involved? If the answer is yes, we walk them through every step, okay? If the answer is no, which most of the time it will be, they'll move on to the client risk section, which is a new section. And this is another reason you can tell the agents, you know, the new client risk from CREA, you don't have to tally it with Fintracker. When you answer the questions, we are already calculating your tally at the bottom, and it'll make it much easier for them to not make a mistake and get the risk score and move on. They complete the business relationship, and it may not look familiar to you, but this is the Canadian Real Estate Association form. And once the agents get used to it, here's the politically exposed section. If they are politically exposed, more questions populate. If not, we just close that out. And we document that they ask the individual when and complete all the forms for them. Now, the beautiful thing about Fintracker and anybody reviewing these forms, you don't have to worry about any missing fields. If they try and submit the form, we're going to highlight that it's not, you cannot submit, and they press that, and we take them to the missing fields. So even the newest agent can navigate through these forms with ease. So once the individual ID is complete, they can add another individual on the offer or listing. They can add a corporate ID. And like Michael said, on the corporate ID, once you enter all the, well, we pre-populate the top half. And then we walk them through, you know, you have to use articles of corporation to complete this form. And once you complete at the bottom, there's a beneficial ownership form, which I'm just going to zip to, because I don't want to take all of our time. But at the bottom, if it's a corporation, they select that. And then we ask, who owns 25% or more? And we train your agents to simply ask for two things. Can I get a shareholders agreement? And if they don't want to provide that, send me a quick email as a written attestation on who owns 25% or more, their names and full addresses, so I can document them here. And if you want to go one step further with your compliance program, you can ask for their email addresses and let them know you're going to be identifying them if you want to go all the way. But names and addresses should be suffice for Fintrack at this stage. And that's your beneficial ownership and corporate ID form. Now I'm going to back up and I'm going to pretend I didn't do a corporate ID, but I'm representing a buyer. And so they've given me a deposit. The agents, you know, all they do is click on receipt of funds. We pre-populate their name, their brokerage, the transaction property address. We give them a calendar to select the date, Canadian dollar by default, amount on the deposit. You know, again, let's go here. Again, if they try to submit it, all the mandatory fields will be highlighted. So they can even use that as a tool to understand what fields need to be completed here under this process. So under bank drafts, we do some more compliance tools for you. We remind them that a bank draft does not have the origins account and that they need to ask for the origins account. So are these funds coming from your account? or are they coming from a third party? And if the answer is somebody else, well, okay, now we need that individual's information, right? The new receipt of funds form has a whole ID section, which I'm going to get to in a second. But even if the client says, no, the funds are coming from my account. Okay, great. I need the origins account, last 7 digits on the check or the account number. And the client says, sure, they provide it. And this is the proper way to complete a bank draft. So you would put where are the funds going to. So it's going to the listing brokerage, ABC Realty. You don't need their account number. Account number 2 would be the bank draft. Okay. Name on that bank draft is ABC Bank. It's not the client's. And this is where we teach them, you know, in an audit, Fintrack's going to come in and go, this was a bank draft. Why didn't you ask for the origins count? 6-digit fine issued out west recently. This is serious stuff now. So we just need to train the agents and give them the tools. Account number 3 is going to be the origins account, right? So the individual's account and their name on the account. If the client says, no, I'm not giving you my information, the agent has the option to press no, but they should be trained to let the client know this might raise a red flag and it might result in a suspicious transaction record. I'm just letting you know. If you don't mind, please give me that information and we can avoid that. And that's really what should be happening. If they don't provide where the funds are coming from, that's the whole point of money laundering, right? Like we need to track the money. So if they say no and they're adamant about it, you can press X and we have a reasonable measures ticket for them. And you'll see that the agents, if they're the ones just not asking and they're just selecting this to bypass it, they'll start asking for the account information. The reasonable measures ticket forces the agent to answer the question, what information was not provided? So account number, origins. When did I ask? I asked today. You know, this is basically, you know, a paper trail for an audit that you ask this question. And do you suspect money laundering or terrorist financing? The answer is no. And that's a tall ask for the agent. So they might go, well, you know what? I'm now going on record saying that I've asked the individual and maybe I should just call them and ask them again. And then the answer turns into yes, they did provide the info and they document it. So that's what we're seeing. Now, on the new CREA forms, you have to now put the identification information onto the form, even if it's the same person you identified. But with Fintracker, you just enter their name because you just ID'd them, and you can select them, and all the data is populated to the form. Like, why would you not use a tool like this to streamline it? And if it's not, if it was a mom on the third party, so a mother provided the deposit, you can ask them, you know, if the mom's present, they can scan the ID right here, or they can select the remote ID, which I showcased you, and they can send them a new one right from here, and it'll complete right in the receipt of funds. So
ask a quick question.
Please go ahead.
So at the time you do the individual identification form, the driver's license is valid. Before closing, it expires.
Yes.
Are there any tips or?
So we have had this, you know, I used to think that it has to be valid by closing. And what they're telling us is as long as you use a tool like Fintracker to validate and authenticate the document, okay? Even if the closing takes place, the ID is expired, it's fine. Upon identification process, that's all that matters. And if the client comes back for a second deal and you pull up the ID in Fintracker, which you can do, you search previous. If the ID is expired, you can reuse it because you validated it with Fintracker. Now on your forms, it's a different story. Okay, if you want to do this manually, there's all different rules. But with Fintracker, if you use a tool to authenticate and verify, you don't need to worry about that expiry date. But if you try and scan an ID, With Fintracker that's expired, that's what's going to happen. Not just expired, but fraudulent, tampered with, damaged, all of that. Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
yes, you're welcome. So I'm just going to pretend it was the same client, which most of the time it will be providing the deposit, and it's going to complete the form for you. And this section E, very confusing. Are the funds being provided by other persons or entities? This is not where you would do the mom or the dad. This is if somebody else is delivering the deposit. Okay. And so the answer most of the time is no. If it is, they're suggesting that, we document even the courier's information. How is a courier going to provide you their information? I don't know. But use the tool up top. If it's somebody else, identify them, and we'll create the ID form right here in the receipt of funds. Once it's complete, you can submit this directly to the office. So I select the individual ID form in the receipt of funds. I hit next. Right now, how are the agents submitting their FinTrack forms? Are they submitting them into a document management system? Are they emailing them by PDFs? What's happening in your office?
You typically email, and then our branch admins, we do all our uploading to document management. We don't have our agents do it.
Okay, so that's great. And so they can send a PDF here by entering the email address, and it will actually remember it. And they don't even have to search for it next time. It'll just be here by default. Now, if you're using our admin portal, which I'm going to showcase you, then that's a whole different game. It won't even use the email service. It will go directly to an inbox that we're going to give you access to, and you're going to be able to do much more with it. I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm just going to finish this demo. So doesn't matter how you want to submit these forms. Once we set it up, it'll be there by default. I'm going to delete these. They're just tests. And I was saying earlier, if you're working with a client again, all you do is search their name. The agents can recall the data and then enter the new transaction property address. And of course, they have to complete the third party, the risk assessment on every transaction, but they don't have to ask the client for the data again. They don't have to call Michael or somebody and say, can you send me the old form I sent you? I can't find it. I'm sure that's happened before, but search previous. Once you show them this tool, they're going to download the app because that is the easiest tool to use. And they're working with clients numerous times. I list somebody's home today, I have to find them a property in the coming months or vice versa. So search previous is ideal. Now I showed you the remote ID, the search previous. In person, again, if the ID is expired, it'll decline it. Now, if you have a current document, watch this. This is what we need to show the agents. We tell them, you're taking pictures right now and storing them, and then you still have to fill out the form. With Fintracker, you don't have to take a picture. You scan the ID, it fills all the info, you enter the occupation and save it for later so that you don't have to call your client after you sell them home and go, what do you do for a living again? Which makes you look so unprofessional, right? So what I've done here is scan the ID. Instead of taking a true image, I've extracted the info and my form is ready to go. Of course, we tell them that the occupation is mandatory to enter before you can save, but truth is you can bypass that. But we're just trying to create habit. And here it is. So they can ID the client when they're starting to look at homes or talking about listing. And once they have formalized a deal or a listing, they can go ahead and complete it and submit it with all their forms. That's it. They don't have to call the client and go, hey, can you text me a copy of your ID? How unprofessional is that? Nobody wants to be texting IDs. This is a DIAC, D-I-A-C-C, Digital Identification Association Council of Canada approved software. We're the only ones in the real estate sector. And now we're being called to, other industries. But let's move on from this. So that's all the ways to identify your clients. They have tutorials for each feature on the top right. if they want a refresher, they're having issues, or they can just contact my support team who responds in like minutes. And that is the Fintracker app in a nutshell. Now, what I'm going to show you, is let's stop sharing here, and we're going to share the admin portal. My bad. I'm going to back up. No, I'm not. When they use the remote ID feature, that's when the client is non-physically present. Fintracker has included a full AML screening. So the client's not physically present, I mentioned earlier, we consider it high risk. So what we're doing when they use, if somebody's going to try and bypass systems and commit fraud, they're probably going to do it from a distance, right? And this is our admin portal, and I'm going to show you the results of our remote ID. So if you're an admin, maybe Michael who wants to review every form, or somebody else on your team that's reviewing the forms, I gotta clean up my screen here. Okay, they can sign into Fintracker on their desktops, and they want to see all submitted forms for today. You can search them, you can do run reports, all that, but the easiest thing to do is go here, search all, and what you're going to see is your submitted forms. And you're going to see AML warning. You're going to see low risk. You're going to see all this messaging here, which is what you're supposed to be doing. A compliance officer or an admin team or whoever is involved in this should be running these names against known entities list, a Google search at the very least, and figuring out if these clients are on any watch list, sanction lists, etc. Fintracker does it all for you. So I'm going to show you on the remote ID, when you send an ID to somebody that is not physically present, we include it for you by default. The remote IDs, after a certain amount of free ones, they have to purchase tokens, or we can invoice the brokerage, up to you. Michael, I'll send you our a la carte services. You can decide if you want to cover the cost of the additional remote IDs, but here's the value you're getting. We run it against all the known lists on the remote ID. And if there was any matches, you would download the report and we would show you where we matched. And then you can rule out or rule in, was this my client? And so once you're happy with that, okay, you can make a note here. Sorry for scrolling so quickly, but you can make a note here. Yeah, not our client, and then you can save it. This one's been approved, so there's no need for notes. And then you would have your notes documented. In the event of an audit with Fintrack, you used a document identification verification tool. You used an AML screening tool, and we've attached 1 year ongoing monitoring to this client. So meaning by possession and beyond, we're going to make sure this guy doesn't fall on any of these lists. And then when you're content, you can open a PDF and upload it to your document management system. And you can press reconcile here to move it to our reconciled folder, which will end up here, nice in chronological order.
Do you have an example of someone who was on the list?
Yeah, right here. So John Doe is on every list because John Doe is just a common name, right? So here appears on a warnings list. You're going to go here, view the report. And you're going to see the details. And you're going to go, oh, this guy is 1870, so it's not my client. And you're going to go back in and make the notes. But let's show you, one of my all-time favorites here. We approved this, right? But it was politically exposed. And I'm going to unapprove it. And you're going to see the report here. Okay, this is a very obvious name, but you would click on here and match, the birth date against the ID, etc. And this is not going to happen. This is not like you're going to be doing this on a daily basis. But when it does happen, here's the tools. You're going right to the source and you're reviewing it. You're doing your actual job as a compliance officer. is this individual the same individual that Fintracker is telling us? And if it's not, you can go in here and say, not same person, save. And now we move it to AML approved. And you go down to the bottom, upload the PDF, etc. Now, you will not see these warnings right now on in-person scan. So when your agents are using the in-person, which is covered under the base subscription for all the boards, you won't see that because it costs us as a company. So you have to opt in as one of our a la carte services. So we have 3 services there, Michael. One is run AML screening on all transactions in person. That's 99 cents per individual, and we'll give you a risk assessment on each one. Forget about the Korea risk assessment. You know, I don't know what that's, I'm not too sure on how much that helps, but there are some great questions in there that, you know, will help you assess, you know, someone lives by a border, apparently that makes them high risk. I don't know, but use the risk assessment, but also use our AML screening. And we monitor with all AML screening for 1 year. Now, so AML screening is 99 cents per ID, per client ID. On the remote ID, it's included with the monitoring as well. And the remote ID, as you saw, is a wonderful tool to authenticate, verify from a distance. The agents right now will receive a few free ones annually, and then they're being prompted to purchase tokens at $3.50 for anybody outside of TREB, and inside TREB, it's $2.99. So they'll buy like 10 or 15 tokens, and then they can use them. And the agents are paying for these, we're seeing, but if we want all of them to use the proper tools, you might want to cover the cost, direct billing to the office at $2.99. And what we've seen some brokers do is charge $2 back to the agent on that transaction for the remote ID, which we provide full reports quarterly. And you cover the 99 cents because you're getting the AML screening. So we're sharing the obligations, the responsibilities, and the cost from the board level association paying the base subscription, you doing the AML warnings and ongoing monitoring, and the agents doing the work. And that is a beautiful collaboration. Now, with that said, we can also run names on corporate IDs, you know, whatever you want to do. That is another a la carte option that's coming. And then our last a la carte feature is if you want to do what Fintrack wants you to do is monitor the account for 5 years, you can top that up from the 1 year to 5 years for an additional $4. So we do that on an annual basis for monitoring that. If that individual was to return, you would search up their name and it would say, warning, you know, this individual, and we update it in your system as well. So you can run reports just like Fintrack wants you to do. So this is our AML portal. At the very least, this is free to use. You can just give me a name or an email of a user that you want to activate as admin. We grant them access. You can sign into your desktop and you'll see brokerage records as opposed to my records. You won't see this. I have this here because I'm an agent and a broker role in our test environment. So brokerage, submitted forms, you would review them, upload them. And are you using SkySlope?
We're not.
What are you using?
We use Transaction Desk.
So good news is we are going to have an API very soon, like in the coming, I believe, month, to click on one of these and upload to any document management system, because we are communicating with all of them now and they can't wait for this because a lot of their clients are asking for it. The bad news is Transaction Desk is the only ones that have declined it. So you're going to have to upload the PDF and move it into there yourself if that's where you want to store your forms. Other companies, when they open up an ID, they grab this FIN number or they tell the agents to do so, and they can copy and paste it into the Fintrack section, or you can hit this copy link It's a hyperlink that gets posted in there so that you don't even have to come to here to review it, Michael. You can go, well, if your admins are putting it into the transaction desk, you can go there, click the link, and if you've been granted admin access for Fintracker, you'll be able to sign in with a single sign-on and review that form in the transaction desk Fintrack section. I know it's a lot of information, but what we're saying is you consider this data sensitive. Why are we uploading it to all these document management systems? Why are we emailing PDFs? You know, use our admin portal, store them here, reconcile them. That's what we recommend. What you do is completely up to you. We have a workflow for everyone. So to summarize what we've done here today is, and I'm just going to stop my share. We have a tool to equip your agents. We'll train them. We do reoccurring webinars every month for all the boards and associations, but we're more than happy to come in and do a private one for your offices. Get them on the app. It's covered by the boards. They are paying for it, you know, for the base subscription. The remote IDs and the AML screening and the ongoing monitoring, I'll send you the info package. You can decide what you want to cover. At the very least, if you don't have a way to cross-reference names through any list right now, and if you're not doing it, don't feel bad. 51% of brokers in Canada aren't doing it. They're just not. And when they get audited, they're either being warned or they're being fined. But we have built a tool in here for 99 cents, the cost of doing business. Other industries are charging $15 to $20 to run this whole AML screening and ongoing monitoring program. I made a promise to the industry early on. I know, Michael, you met me early on, and I continue to say it. You know, my business partners are like, what are you doing? When are you going to up these costs? And I made a promise to the industry. We're going to be the most effective and the most cost efficient for as long as I'm in control here. And so please take advantage of it. You know, our markup is very small on that AML screening. And we're actually looking for, because the space is now being, you know, a lot of companies are coming into it. We're looking for a cheaper version, but it has to be as effective as Comply Advantage, which is what we use. It's one of the most reputable tools, like Manulife and the big banks are using it. And we negotiated a great rate because of our transactions, right? We did over 300,000 in the last 12 months. So please take a look at that info package. Let us know if you're ready to launch this with everyone. And if you need help on the admin portal, just let us know if you want to activate it and who you want to have access to it. Those individuals will need to go on to fintracker.ca, register an account, select your brokerage, and then you will need to send us an email saying, please give Annie or Jen access to our admin portal, and then we'll activate those roles on the back end. And there is an option to receive notifications when an agent emails it, but I think you're going to be annoyed by that. So I think it's best that when a deal comes in, if you can go to the Fintracker app and see that the forms are there. If you're instructing the agents to simply submit it within Fintracker and not email the PDFs. If you want to continue emailing PDFs, you can have both. So you can have the admin portal set up and have them send the PDF via email. Just let us know how you want to do it.